If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are all over this planet. Welcome to Neely Fuller's Counter Racist Code Show. I am one of the co-hosts, Mr. Bobby, and with me, as usual, is Mr. Gate. He will be with us and to offer his opinions or his takes to navigate the show into the direction that it should go. I will be reading a lot of your chats, as many as I can, as we intersperse them throughout the program. With today's topic is going to be logic, cause and effect. Now, before I get started, I have to do the housekeeping thing, so let's do that. You can help support the show by hitting the like button and the share button. To watch the show live, go to YouTube at Produce Justice, Facebook and Instagram at Produce Justice Fuller Jr., and you can also watch the show live at producejustice.com. A replay of the show is available immediately on all platforms. To get the show to share your thoughts, click on the link in the feed and you'll be prompted on what to do next. You can also find instructions on the website at producejustice.com. By the way, feel free to read a message from one of Mr. Fuller's books on air for discussion. Now, to contact us off air, send your questions or comments to contact at producejustice.com. And to order the books, all you have to do is go to producejustice.com. And you can get all 3 volumes of books, and they will be mentioned all throughout this show. And hopefully, as you know, we are always under attack by the usual suspects, but we have been, especially Gate has been working effortlessly trying to or diligently trying to work these things out. But one day we will be able to have a clean show without all that stuff that's going on. But we appreciate it, and we appreciate his efforts, and we appreciate your efforts because you make the show go extremely well, as we had last week, and we're hoping to be better. We are hoping to be better. So with that all said and out of the way, being that this is September the 30th, 2025 edition of Neely Fuller's Counter Racist Show, let me introduce Mr. Gate. Gate, how are you this morning?
Good morning, Mr. Bobby, and good morning to all of the listeners and viewers. I'm still learning. That's the quote Mr. Fuller famously coined and used at the top of every one of his shows. But just because I'm using his quote does not mean I'm here to replace Mr. Fuller. That is not possible, and we are making no attempts to do such. What we are attempting to do is keep his legacy going forward and to make sure that his word, his thoughts, his speech, his action is preserved. And that's what this show is about. This is Neely Fuller's Counter Racist Code Show. Mr. Fuller spent 5 years on Blog Talk, under this same show. He was also on Talktainment. And we're just trying to continue. And we have a slightly different format. We give you Mr. Fuller's words. We quote from his books. He has 3 books out there. One he wrote back in 1984, which was the original code book. He wrote a word guide back in 2008. And then in 2016, he wrote the famous revised expanded edition of the code book, which you can get by going to producejustice.com. We are going to talk about logic today. And just quickly how this show works. We're not here just to parrot Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller has some great quotes and thoughts, but he also told us about this thing called logic. Now, what I like about his take on logic was that, yes, Mr. Fuller wrote some nice books, has some nice words, and he is worthy of all of the praise that we bestow upon him. But what he did also lay down was the fact that he wants you to think for yourself. Matter of fact, one of his famous videos that are circulating is that he talked about somebody actually called into the show and said, Mr. Fuller, when you're gone, what are we supposed to do? How are we going to carry on? And Mr. Fuller did just that on February 1st of this year. He left here to go join the ancestors, but he laid down the roadmap for us to move forward. Logic is bigger than any one person, and he wants us to be thinking individuals. Matter of fact, let's start out the show by playing Mr. Fuller's Selfless. And when I say selfless, he was quick to minimize his impact, even though we know it was almost beyond measure. But he was very, very adamant about don't idolize me. Don't follow me. Don't follow people. I want you to follow the logic. So let's put Mr. Fuller's words up. So hang on a second. Let me get that up here on the screen. I want to move it.
It's called the United Independent Code. You don't give up your independence when it comes to evaluating any situation. You never go by what another black person says, another fellow victim, another prisoner of war, of racism, or about racism. You don't go by what Neely Fuller says or nobody else. You go by what conclusions you come to, and nothing else. And those conclusions should come by through logic, counter-racist science. That's what you follow all the time. And I got to emphasize that again and again and again.
Yes, sir.
A lot of people on this program call in on almost every program, the Carl Nelson Show and all that, on WL, which I'm on every now and then. And they say, well, Mr. Fuller, what are we going to do when you're not available or when you're dead? And I keep saying the United Independent System is about you being united as a person, not with Fuller. No, you don't unite with Fuller. What does that mean, uniting with Fuller? Fuller's a fellow prisoner. He's not exempt from white supremacy. He's under the system of white supremacy. Why would you follow somebody who's under white supremacy? That's not logical. You follow logic. That's what takes you out from under white supremacy. Logic came with the universe. Cause and effect. You do certain things and you don't do certain things. That's what you call a code. A code is logical. It has nothing to do with who does it. Whoever does the logical thing is going to be a winner. It's going to solve problems. That's what black people have to tap into and stop being fascinated by people. Fuller makes mistakes. If you follow in Fuller, you're going to make the same mistakes that Fuller makes. This is one of the hardest things for black people to understand. Don't you follow anybody anywhere. Jim Jones or anywhere else. I don't care how it looks on the surface.
Yes.
Why? Because there's no such thing as a person that doesn't make a mistake. Get that cemented in your mind. There's no such thing as a person that doesn't make a mistake. So when you follow a person that makes mistakes, you're going to make mistakes. That's a guarantee. So black people worldwide need to get out of that immediately, as of this minute.
Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller was pretty adamant. He did not leave any guesswork about it. He said unequivocally. Hold on there, like I lost my video. Go ahead, Mr. Bobby.
And since Waki Ngozi said 13 years on the air and going strong, 2012, autumn of Talktainment Radio that we, Fuller and I were on, and 2020 transition to Produce Justice Blog Talk, Fuller Liz. That's right. He wanted us to not to follow, make sure that we don't follow him, but follow logic. That's in all things. Follow the logic, and we must teach our people to follow the logic continually, whether you're on the air or off the air, you live it. I refer to it as TSA, thought, speech, and action, to counteract this stuff that we are in. And it is a mess. It is confusing. And he mentioned that in all the 9 areas of people activity. We have to do that, because if we don't, we will become confused, which they will take advantage of it in every avenue that they can. Because when you are confused, you cannot think logically. And what does Fuller say? Follow the logic. That logic. A Stray Gazella 22 says this: without the code, I would have been totally lost. That's good, because we all would without that code. We need that code. We need that code to stay focused on what we're doing. As you can see, what is going on, particularly in this continent, you know, or whatever this is, Northwestern Hemisphere. And myself personally, and I'm speaking because Gate is, we're having issues again, and you know that, the usual suspects. But I'm trying to refer to, learning to refer to ourselves and other black people as native indigenous people. And the reason why I say that is because I no longer believe that Christopher Columbus discovered America and that America was named after Amerigo Vespucci. But do you know that 200, at least 200 years before the settlement at Jamestown, which was in what, 1619, and before Columbus, which was, we were taught, was 1492, there was a brother trade routes long before all that happened, and his name was Mansa Abukari II. He was from Mali and might have been in relation to Mansa Musa, who was the richest man ever on the planet. Black guys never thought about it. We were never taught that. He established trade routes with the native indigenous people who were here on this continent, and they were black. But somehow we got included in being Americans, and all that kind of stuff, deliberately messing with our minds so that we wouldn't know or understand who we are. A deliberate job to black us out on, or blank us out our history. And that's a shame, but this is what we're up against. And so because of that, Mr. Fuller got wind of that and realized that a counter racist code had to be established. And that is why he wrote those books so that we would have a code. And what does he say about a code? That it works all of the time. I counter racist code. And I can tell by some of the people in the chat that they're beginning to live that code. And that is important. We have to live this counter racist code. This is not a game, particularly as you see what's going on nationally here in this concept. How's that
Bobby,
Yeah, go ahead, Gabe.
hold on a second. I'm going to go out and come back in. So something happened to my video. So just hang on a second, okay? Don't go
Okay,
anywhere.
I'll hang.
And to the
Okay.
listeners, if we disconnect, just come back in, okay? We'll be right back. Hang on. Don't go anywhere.
If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
All right.
Okay.
Man.
like I said at the beginning, the usual suspects are at play for whatever the reason, and that's what we have to do is to deal with it. Go ahead, Gabe.
All right. Thanks again, Mr. Bobby, for holding things down. Let's talk about logic. We're talking about logic today. We played a video of Mr. Fuller, and he was talking about, he was self-deprecating in how he said, look, don't idolize me, don't follow me or any person for that matter, just follow the logic. Now, Mr. Fuller also addressed logic quite a bit in his books. In the word guide, for instance, in the preface of the book, before you even get into the book, into the words themselves, Mr. Fuller said, according to compensatory logic, any comment that is made should always be the best possible comment that can be made. So when you're thinking about logic and you're about to speak, whether speaking to an individual, an institution, on the job, wherever you are, make sure that you're making the best possible comment. That's according to compensatory logic. If you're going through the word guide, Mr. Fuller he spoke about logic in all of his books. He spoke about logic just about throughout the book. Let's put it that way. He also said, according to compensatory logic, there is reason to believe that the best language for any people to teach, learn, and use is the language that does the most to produce the following results. One being guaranteeing that no person is mistreated, and 2, guaranteeing that the person that needs the most help get the most constructive help. So he's applying logic to his definition of justice. And you've heard Mr. Phillip use that comment quite often, where he's layered on the logic to go along with it. So now, Mr. Fuller went further to say, now you can ignore logic if you want to, but it's going to cost you. In other words, logic is here, we're laying it out, but you can ignore it, at a cost. As a matter of fact, we're going to put up another video from Mr. Fuller. So hang on a second. He talks about a caller called in and said, hey, what if we put logic out there, but people choose not to use it? So give us a second here. We're going to load up another one of Mr. Fuller's quotes. So hang on a second.
Even though they can't argue with the logic, can they refuse to hear it or refuse to let you present it? Just say, I know that's logical, but I don't care because I'm the master of you, so you do what I say.
Yes, you can ignore logic, and it's going to cost you.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you ignore logic, logic is not going to ignore you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you believe
Okay.
that that bridge is there, and the bridge fell down last night, and you drive your car just like the bridge is still there, logic teach you when you start bouncing down that canyon that whomever told you that that bridge is out and you didn't believe it, logic will prove it when you try it. So the things that I say about white supremacy and all like that, a lot of black people call in on this show and have down through the years and on other shows and said, that thing called white supremacy, it don't exist. That's just some propaganda Neely Fuller's putting out. I say, okay, just keep believing that and see how far you go. See how far you go with your belief. See, I'm just a signpost. I tell people that. I don't invent nothing. I just point out what's already there. Or if I discover that it's not there, I just simply say it's not there. It used to be there, maybe, like that bridge. Yeah, it used to be a bridge there. It fell down 2 months ago. Now the person can say, yeah, well, I wasn't here 2 months ago, so I don't care what you say. Well, go down there and see for yourself. That's the best I can say, and that's all I do on this program. Because I go strictly by logic.
Well, you heard him. Mr. Fuller says he goes strictly by logic. You can try to ignore logic if you want to, but according to him, that would come at a cost. Now, what we're going to do later in the show, similar to what we did last week, we're going to give you some pointers on how to apply logic as we all try to dismantle this system of racism. Mr. Fuller didn't just talk to hear his head roar. What he did, he laid down a blueprint, a roadmap for us to pick up the mantle and apply action to it. There's thought, there's speech, but all of that is useless if we don't take some type of action. So what I'm doing today, very much like we did last week, I'm going to accept Mr. Fuller's definition, his words on logic as a call to action. And one of his lifelong missions was to dismantle this system of racism and white supremacy. Now, if you go to the word guide on page 204, he actually provided a definition of logic. He said, use this term to apply to the process and production of the correct answers to every question that pertains to who, what, when, where, and why, and how, or whatever needs to be known, understood, or should be known and understood, including the causes and the effects. He used the word cause and effect when applied to logic. Now, also what I'm going to ask you to do in the code book, in the preface of the code book, he also said, use logic, choose carefully, think about cause and effect. Do not think, speak, act on any part of this book unless you think, and doing so will produce a constructive result. So Mr. Fuller was, as we can see, logic was one of the foundations of his, one of the primary weapons in his toolkit as we seek to dismantle this system of racism. Now, what I've decided to do, go ahead, Mr. Bob, let me get you in here.
Agreeing with you because like has been mentioned, in everything that we do, we have to have logic. We have to slow it down. Slow it down. Life's process. It behooves you to take your time and examine what is before you, what is on the right hand or on the left hand, whichever way it comes. You have to make an assessment of what it is to know what direction to go to rather than just being reactive, because you can get yourself, or we get ourselves, in trouble when we are reactive. We have to be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. That's what the Bible says. That means we have to take a look at it, an objective look at it. That's where the logic comes in. What is good about it? What is not good about it? And then what to do about it. And that's why when we understand the system of white supremacy, as Mr. Fuller said, what it is and how it works. That's how we avoid confusion. Because if we don't, he said, everything that you understand or even think you understand will only confuse you. As you can see what's going on right now in the world that we are living in. We have to take a step back and look at it and see what it is, what to do, and then what not to do. I know it sounds repetitive, but it is true. That's so that we can operate in that logic. This is a good topic, logic, and we have to be taught that. Gate?
Thank you, Mr. Bobby. Let's go to class this morning. Let me put on my professor hat. And let's talk about logic. Let's talk about how we can use logic. Now, Mr. Fuller didn't just give us logic just so we can go read and go to sleep. Mr. Fuller was on a mission. He's trying to dismantle this system of racism and white supremacy. So I'm going to take up the battle on the action part of it, because to me, talking is useless if you don't apply some type of action. Like information. Like they used to say over Radio 1, information is power, but it's action that matters. Information without action is useless. So let's talk about applying some of this logic. Now, one thing Mr. Fuller was big on, and you've heard him say this on many of his shows, stay in the question lane. So let's think logic for a minute as we're trying to apply logic in dismantling the system. First thing you want to do is identify the claim that they're making. Make sure that it's clear. So if somebody's saying something, they're making some type of claim, and you're running it through this logic filter, the first thing you want to say is, what exactly are they trying to say? And sometimes they put it in code, in vague terminology. So what you want to do as you're applying logic, speak to that person. What exactly are you saying here? Make it plain. Stop talking in code. Stop trying to gaslight me. Make sure you understand what they're saying before you can respond to it. That's a part of logic. So one is staying in this question lane. Another thing you want to do as you test and apply logic as we're trying to dismantle this system, and let's say you're dealing with somebody who's trying to gaslight you or oppress you or do some things that really are counter to justice, test the evidence. Ask them, get in this question lane again, what evidence do you have to support this claim? We see that a lot when people are spouting out these stereotypes, saying that certain people are inferior, or saying that certain people are better than other people, or saying that the system of white supremacy is already gone because we have examples of Oprah and Barack Obama out here. What evidence do you have to support this claim, and make sure that that evidence is valid? In other words, be able to, if they're citing statistics, if they're citing numbers, make sure those numbers are valid. Somebody throws out, well, the average such and such is this. Well, you have to question them. When you say average, do you mean the medium, the mean, or the mode? Because each one of them will give you a different set of results. Test the evidence and don't let them throw out these numbers that may not be valid. And also in the question lane, you want to expose any assumptions. People make assumptions. Oh, everybody knows that. Well, they know everybody doesn't. What unspoken belief is this assumption built upon? We're talking about how logic can be applied. Why Mr. Fuller was so strongly suggesting logic, why he spoke so fervently about it in his books, in his podcasts. Logic. You have to apply logic if you want to move forward and use logic as we attempt to dismantle this system. And we're going to bring in Bill in a minute, so hang on there. People have somebody in the green room. I'm going to get to this point, and then we're going to bring in our Bill and join this conversation. Now, another way we're going to apply logic as we attempt to dismantle this system is to identify the hypocrisy. We did an entire show on hypocrisy last week. So you have some racist comes along and say, well, we believe in freedom and equality. At the same time, simultaneously, they're promoting oppression and violence and exclusion. Expose that as part of the logic. Highlight the contradiction. That's a part of logic. You saying to them, look, you cannot claim freedom and expression while denying equality based on race. And one more thing to do, as Mr. Fuller spoke about this quite often, follow cause and effect. Follow cause and effect. So if you're going to say that, well, people are non-white people or more violent, or they're not as smart, or they don't score as high on grades, explain why. If you've been marginalized, denied, miseducated, then of course that's to be expected. So don't just accept it as it is. Explain why it is that way. Matter of fact, I'm going to play a video. They want to bring in Bill on how Mr. Fuller addressed cause and effect in one of his videos when he was on Blog Talk Radio. So hang on a second. We're talking to everybody who's tuning in for the first time. This is the topic today is on logic. Mr. Fuller laid down a blueprint. He laid down the law. He said, follow the logic, not the person. Well, what I'm doing today is to take that ball and run a little further with it, put a little more meat on the bone. How can we apply this logic? It's easy to say, okay, I'm going to be logical, but let's be specific. Let's be targeted on how we can apply logic to dismantle this system, to expose the hypocrisy, to challenge the claims, to ask them to prove the evidence and eliminate assumptions that are untrue. Let's bring Mr. Fuller up quickly.
Yes, Mr. Fuller, is there a logic in the compensatory code being constructed by a black male, particularly born in the Northwestern Hemisphere during this time in history?
And yeah, there's a logic in everything that people do, but you have to find out what's the best thing, what's not logical, and what is logical, if I understand the question. For every person, for every creature, logic just means a way of going about doing things. Cause and effect, that's what logic itself is. Do I do everything as Neely Fuller in my environment? Do I do everything in a way that is most constructive using the logic that will make me do the most constructive thing, in every area of activity, in every move that I make. Because that should be everybody's goal. You do the most constructive thing. That should be, logically speaking, everybody's goal.
Mr. Fowler said that should be everybody's goal. Everybody. That means you, I, the listeners, the followers, and everybody else. What we're going to do, Mr. Bobby, I'm going to bring Bill into the conversation. Bill, if you're ready, let us know. We're going to put you on the screen and get your take on this topic today. We're talking about logic today. And we've read comments and quotes from Mr. Fuller's word guide and his code book. We've also been playing some of his videos from his past shows. Mr. Fuller was on Blog Talk for 5 years. Mr. Bobby was the co-host. I was the producer. And so we were given the charge by the family to continue this legacy. And we were two of the people who were pretty much at Mr. Fuller's side for the past 7 years of his life. So we're here today to take his words, apply our own logic, and also some calls to action as it applies to logic. Bill, welcome to the show. And let's get your take on the conversation. Thank you for joining the show this morning. Wait a minute.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I'm still learning. Hope we can continue to learn. One of the aspects about logic that I'd like to address is one of the things we used to speak with Mr. Fuller about is the concept of what can we do? What can be done? And that question kind of assumes that if we fast forward, that the person is talking about what can be done about the system of white supremacy. And one of the most important things I think that I learned from studying the work of Mr. Fuller is he used to say that because logic exists, and this is assuming now that we're talking about ourselves as individuals going forward, that we believe that the system of white supremacy exists. There's a whole conversation with non-white people about whether or not it exists and whether we're victims. And you theoretically can come up and you can be talking to a white person and they can be talking as though the system of white supremacy doesn't exist, or sometimes they'll admit that it exists, but they try to say that they don't participate in it as a white supremacist. That's sometimes how you might hear that comment that you spoke of earlier about I believe in freedom and equality and such. But to get back to it, is that if the system of white supremacy exists, most Black people come upon that by a logic that they see that non-white people are being mistreated. And at first, you may not know why, but after a while, if you're fortunate, you come upon the fact that, or through logic, that there's a system of white supremacy and that it is mistreating non-white people. So that once you see yourself, as Mr. Fuller said, he saw himself in Japan, you're sitting there and you're wondering, what can I do? And apparently, one of the things that Mr. Fuller did so much is to begin to develop a code. Now, I know a lot of times I get
we lost Bill. Bill, are you still there?
I want to be able to do something about it.
Bill, if you can go out and come back in, we're not hearing you. We're going to give Bill a chance to go out and come back. And the usual suspects are really at work today. But we are not to be deterred. We're going to continue our talking today. We're talking about logic. Now, we're also discussing how logic can be applied. That's one of the things that I've made it my one of my missions, one of my goals, one of my objectives for co-hosting this show is to not be just talk. Lord knows we have enough talk going on. Talk. There's a billion talk shows on YouTube, and Facebook has shows, and everybody's talking. But somebody's got to do some work. Somebody has to actually put some pedal to the metal and work. So that's been my charge. That's been what I've decided I'm going to do. I've decided that I'm not just going to be a talking head. That's for right or wrong. I mean, for better or worse. What I will also say is that these are my takes. Mr. Fuller gave me the right to do that. I call it my own VGQ, so I have blanket authorization from Mr. Fuller. But what I do when I use my own VGQ, I still apply logic. And I'm also I call myself someone who's also trying to dismantle this system of racism and to replace it with a system of justice. Now, if we were going down the list of things that we can do to apply logic in this fight. Another thing that Mr. Fuller said, and I'm going to amen, you have to clarify language and definitions. Mr. Fuller was such a fervent believer in that he actually wrote an entire book called The Word Guide. He talks about certain words that should be used, certain words that shouldn't be used, how they should be applied, and so forth. Those are his words, and many of those I agree with wholeheartedly. So white supremacy thrives on vague and loaded language, and they speak in code. If you don't believe me, go back to the Southern strategy. You go back to Willie Horton. You go back to history is replete with examples of where they have used coded language to make their point, to speak to their base, to minimize and marginalize non-white people. They're using terms like real Americans, a real American, a white Christian American, law and order, things that are steeped in hypocrisy, but it's coded. So in your application of logic, we go back to the question lane that Mr. Fuller wanted us to pretty much live in. Ask, what exactly does that mean? What does real American mean? What does law and order mean? Because it means different things to different people. Like I gave you the example a minute ago. Somebody says average. Well, the average American or the average SAT score or the average this or average that, I can take any two set of variables and I can make it favor my argument by deciding whether I'm going to use the median, the mean, or the mode. Each one of them is an average. The racists are experts at that. So don't let them do that. Clarify the language. Who is included? Who's excluded? Precision strips away the manipulative power of coded language. Mr. Bobby.
Yes, Gate, you just mentioned something that probably went over most people's head, but it didn't go over mine, and it's called the Southern strategy. Now, that is not just words; was an actual strategy used, and I'm going to read it a little bit, just for those so that people can be informed, because we want to inform the people of what's going on, and you're not just spewing out words or terms. In American politics, the Southern strategy was a Republican Party electoral strategy to increase political support among white voters in the South by appealing to racism against African Americans. As the civil rights movement and dismantling of Jim Crow laws in the 50s and 60s visibly deepened existing racial tensions in much of the southern United States, Republican politicians such as presidential candidates Richard Nixon and Barry Goldwater, now listen, they developed strategies that successfully contributed to the political realignment of many white conservative voters in the South who had traditionally supported the Democratic Party so consistently that voting pattern was named the Solid South. That was established when at that time the South, they were Democrats, but after the and blacks in the North were Republican. Lincoln was a Republican, not the Republican of the Day's Party, but he was a Republican then. They got so mad that they became Republicans, and then black people became Democrats. The Southern strategy is real. It is in place right now, as you can see nationally, what the Republican Party is doing right now, erasing or trying to erase and eliminate everything, filing charges on people without evidence, Gate, without evidence, tying up the judicial system, dismantling the Constitution in place of what? A racist strategy. That's why it is imperative that we act codified. And then not only act, but action, and then do something about it. And Fuller was correct in dismantling the system in all 9 areas of people activity. So if you don't know what the Southern strategy is, and I just read a little bit briefly, go back over this and remember what Gates said, the Southern strategy, so you can have clarity on what is going on right now. Gate?
Thank you, Mr. Bobby, for adding some meat to that bone, because I do toss out words sometimes as a historian, but in a nutshell, the Southern strategy was use coded language. In other words, you can't, I think Lee Atwater was famously caught on tape saying, you can't use words like nigga, nigga, nigga. Now you have to use words like busing. You have to use words like states' rights. In other words, that's why I said in that last, clarify the language and don't let them get away with using coded language. Ask them, what does that mean? Because precision of the words strips away the manipulative power of coded language. Now, another thing you want to do, as we're talking about how to apply logic as we move forward in the administration of justice, truth telling. Now, last week we talked about it. We're going to talk about it again. It was another one of the foundational aspects of Mr. Fuller's strategy, and that is racism depends on falsehoods, so much so that it starts to sound normal. They would tell a lie on top of a lie, backed up by other lies, till you repeat it so many times. That was one of the plays out of the Goebbels handbooks in Nazi Germany. Rudolf Adolf Hitler hired a communication specialist. His name was Goebbels. He had one of the highest positions in the Third Reich because they understood the power of communication and miscommunication. So logic paired with evidence insists on the truth, and just because somebody repeats something often is not a substitute for the truth. Mr. Bobby, we do have a Mr. Nkrumah in the waiting room. Hang on there, Mr. Bobby. Go right ahead.
A couple of chats here. The Creole King says, basically, it's not his, not mine. Jesse Paris, a.k.a. Shay Numera, if I pronounce it right, I'm still learning. And Sintwalking Ngozi said this, Southern strategy continues today, right on, brother, with redistricting voter populations. You see it all the time. white supremacy, refinement. You're right, Gabe. They speak in code, and we have to be aware using logic of what's going on, or else we will be confused. Go on with the brother that wants to get on the air. I want to hear what the brother has to say.
All right, we're going to bring to the stage Shay and Kruma.
Yes.
Yes.
And let me get you on the stage, there, brother. All right, brother, welcome to the show. Thank you for tuning in. And
Grand Rising, I got an echo. Let me see if I can get that under control. Okay, I muted the video. I don't know why it's echoing. I'm still learning.
okay, go ahead. You're not. I think you're clear right now. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I had spoken to my wife a few weeks ago. She had called in, but I'm also a student of Neely Fuller Jr. As you can see, I got the compensatory code concept books right here. I am in the realm of politics. I run for politics here in Colorado. I'm in the state of Colorado. We're both in the state of Colorado. I ran for mayor, city council, and house district for the state of Colorado. And I'm still learning, just like y'all. This realm of politics is something else, to say the least. But I'm actively working in my city and in my state to produce justice, which, as Neely Fuller Jr. said, guaranteeing that nobody's mistreated by the color of their skin, and those that need the most constructive help get it in a constructive manner. What I was going to say is, how do we go about this? You were talking about the truth telling. I truth tell every Monday at my Denver City Council meetings. I've been doing it for over 10 years now. I said I'm a student of Neely Fuller Jr. for over 10 years. And I'm just trying to figure out how we're going to do this when they are trying to roll back everything that we have fought for and died for over the past 60 years, and how they're using this coded language like woke, CRT, and how the Democrats use broad, ambiguous language such as people of color, marginalized, disenfranchised, underserved, underprivileged, all of that. So I'm still learning on how to navigate through all of that, because as Dr. Claude Anderson said, it's malign neglect that they're practicing, and both parties practice it religiously.
But
So
let me say,
I'm a question.
this, brother.
What do you do with that?
We did a show last week, and I invite everybody to go back and listen to it. We talked about strategies for truth telling. Mr. Fuller said, in a nutshell, the best way to, they talked about how they have become such prolific liars and embedded trafficking hypocrisy. So Mr. Fuller, on one of his videos, that the last thing he said on that, to counter that, he said, when they get better at lying, we have to become better at truth telling. So we gave an entire lesson last week on how to become better, more effective truth tellers. And we gave some point by point. And I encourage everybody to go back and listen to the last show. It's on the website at producejustice.com. It's also on YouTube. It's on Facebook. And so, brother, now this, like I said, none of these things happen at the wave of a wand. We have to get down in the weeds, because if you're being bombarded with propaganda and gaslighting on a day-to-day basis, and you start to believe something that's not real, we have to just push back. We have to keep pushing back, and we have to become better at countering the lies and hypocrisy. And that's why the last couple of shows, that instead of just saying go out here and boycott or march or do this and that, I'm not saying anything wrong with that. I'm saying we have to become better communicators, better, have more weapons to counter some of these falsehoods and hypocrisy out here, and call them out on it. So that's the one of many things we have to do to help dismantle this system, is become better communicators, become better truth tellers, and follow logic. Like Mr. Fuller said, don't follow the person, follow the logic. And so I congratulate you on you and your wife and what you all are doing. That is exactly what Mr. Fuller wants us to do. He said every prisoner in this system has to do what they do. Now, mine is to come on this show every week, among other things that I do. but you're taking a different route. Your route may be different than mine, Mr. Bobby, Bill, or Nicolette. But I congratulate you, and I wish you much success as you tackle it on this way. Let's get Nicolette in here for a second. Thank you, brother. Don't go away. We'll bring you back in to follow up. Nicolette, welcome. You're muted right now. Welcome to the show.
Okay, good morning. I'm calling from the hospital, but I had to say what I had to say. I was looking at Project Platinum, and they were saying people always asking how we can do this, how we can do that. And what you just said, we have to be accountable. We have to be straight shooters. We have, like he was saying, the 501c3s, which is your churches. We have to get the churches more involved. And if every church in our community adopt a street, adopt a community, create a community center, that would be a utopia way of beginning changing our neighborhoods. Like it is a way to be done. No one's listening. And I feel like Neely Fuller was teaching us how to stay bold and how to stay true in our logic. Because without logic, reason, and philosophy, then we are all on a lie. So that's what I had to say. Again, I'm from a hospital bed, so I had to put my input though. I love you guys.
Love you too, Nicolette. We're sending healing mercies your way. Whatever is ailing you, I hope that you come out of it bright and strong, because we really need people like you. And I really appreciate your input. And you've been a great follower of the show. You've always had good input. And like I said, I hope you quick healing. Mr. Bobby. Hold on there, Mr. Bobby. Let me get you let me get the mic open here for you. Where's your thing here? Go ahead, Mr. Bobby.
I was just going to say, as we wind it down and then bring back Bill, everybody make it a point to and tell others to understand the Southern strategy, as Gate pointed out. It's real. It's still in effect right now. Study it so that you can logically address some of the things or all of the things that we're facing right now. The Southern strategy. Good point, Gate.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bobby. Bill, I'm going to go quickly around the room, give you final quotes, and then we're going to tune it out. I also ask everybody to please go and like this program. We're trying to build a platform here. We're actually making some pretty good headway. The community is building. We're getting great engagement, as evidenced by the people on the screen on the screen as we speak. And we're going to continue to grow, but we need your input. Bill, go right ahead.
Yes, I wanted to get back to just quickly say that the one of the best actions is to become codified. What happens is, whether you're talking in politics, on the radio, or just with a person you meet, or even talking to white people, once you have codified language, the message and the truth comes through much more succinctly. So I think that's what we can do on an individual basis while we're reading and studying the book, is to get in touch with the code and how we can be direct and to the point. One of the biggest things is to address the concept of mistreatment. In terms of justice. It's not just because of people getting mistreated because of their color. It's all forms of mistreatment that we are against.
Thank you, Bill. And Mr. Fuller's definition of justice, as a matter of fact, was making sure that nobody's mistreated, and that those who need help the most get the most constructive help. Because it's not just enough to say, hey, look, I'm in for justice. It's an action. There's action required. And that's what we're talking about today. Mr. Fuller laid down the path for us to move forward. He laid down a code book. He had these videos out here. He gave us a word guide to use. So he understood that this is a cerebral process. You got to think. And that's why his book, his thoughts, all of his words, his videos talk about logic. So I felt like it would be a malpractice not to come on this show and talk about logic. Go through the book. Matter of fact, I just went through the book recently, and just like every other word was talking about compensatory logic. So what we talked about today is how to take that and apply it. Apply it as a call to action. I'm gonna give you one last word there, Mr. Chig Nkrumah. Oh, sorry. Let me add you back to the stage here. Go right ahead, sir.
Yes, thank you, Gate. I just like to say I've been a follower of Neely Fuller Jr. for over 10 years. I used to follow the Blog Talk Radio when Produced Justice was on Blog Talk Radio. Too was on Blog Talk Radio on the Shabaka's Black Experience Enhanced and Black Dots and Theory. Like you said, it's an action. Just like racism and white supremacy, it's thought, speech, and action. Producing justice is thought, speech, and action as well.
Thank you, sir. And I really appreciate you. Look, brother, I tell you what, don't be a stranger. The door is always open to you and to everyone else. We put the link up every week. We put it on the website. We put it in the feed. And if you want to come on the show, we invite you to come on. Your word. This is not my show. This is not Mr. Bobby's show. This is your show as well. And we invite you and really appreciate bringing you on the air to speak your piece. Like I said, also share this show with others. Bring in people like the show. We're trying to grow this platform here so that we can reach more people. And what we're about, in a nutshell, we are trying to administer justice and dismantle this system of racism. Okay, this is not about your political party. This is not about whether you're black or white. We're saying we want to dismantle this system of white supremacy and replace it with a system of justice. If that's the way you feel, if that's your belief, this show is for you. I encourage you to share with other like-minded people. Mr. Bobby, your final thoughts for today. Let me get you. Sorry, hold on, Mr. Bobby. I'm sorry. Go right ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. I always say at the end, producejustice.com. That's where you go. And also, please, for your sake, mine, and all of us who are staying codified, understand the Southern strategy, and it gives you a perspective on what's happening right now. Producejustice.com.
Well, like Mr. Bobby said, they're on code. They have a strategy. We have to be better truth tellers. We have to be logical, and we have to be consistent. And if we do that, then there will come a day where this system will be dismantled and justice will reign throughout the land. But until then, we'll be back next week right here on the Counter-Racist Code from Mr. Fuller's Counter-Racist Code. We'll see you next week.
If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time.